everyone, it's Yanda from Blended Vintage Marketplace. On Wednesday morning, I have a few pieces in the shop that need painting, and I'm scrunching down because I need you guys to see this bench, and it's hard for me to get up there and put the camera up and then down. This is just a lot easier. But anyways, this bench, I love it. It's low. I think you could use it for if you have a mudroom to put boots on, or flower pots or blankets now that fall's coming here in New England. So it is pretty as it is, but I have paint and I have stamps and I'm going to use them. So I'm going to try to turn this into a farmhouse bench, but you know, it can't just be plain white like farmhouse because I have a hard time doing just plain white. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting it white. We're going to use this stamp, which is from IOD, which is called the Crackler, and it kind of leaves like crackling marks. I've never used it before. I tried it before I came on. I made it globby, but it turns out I like it. And what is it that Bob Ross says? Happy little accidents. It all works out. And once we have the paint and then the Crackler stamp on top of it, I want to put in big letters, again with IOD stamps, farmhouse on it. And so that's how that's gonna go. All right, so we're gonna start with the white. That's kind of the boring part, but it has to go on first. Okay, so here we go. And I'm using Debbie's Design Diary paint, of course. It's VOC free, not low VOCs, but no VOCs. So with this bench, I just happen to grab this small brush. It's a Paint Pixie brush. I forget the number of it. Too many things to remember. But you would want to use either a bigger brush or a roller. This is just what I happen to have. It works. It's all good. And we're just going to do some white on here. I might even distress it later on with either sandpaper or just some baby wipes. Baby wipes is a good way to distress furniture. You wait for your piece to dry and then you just get your baby wipes and you wipe off where it would normally be distressed from time and wear and tear in your pieces. Or you can just go to town and distress the heck out of your piece. It's your piece, right? All right, so let me see. I'm gonna try not to make a mess because I usually do. Yeah, I really do recommend a bigger brush. Don't do as I do, just do as I say. Okay, I'm gonna kind of avoid this area a little bit because the gray is still wet and it'll just get all mucky if I go over it. To get that later. All right, it's my bench. I'm also going to, someone asked me to do a video on blending start to finish, what brush I use, the colors when I put them where. Hopefully that will be the next thing I can get to. So the problem with this is that it needs a second coat, I think, of the white, which makes it hard to do the stamp because this coat has to dry before I can put the stamp on, or else it just gets all yucky. But I don't know, maybe we can find an area that we could do this. This could be a mess. So here's the stamp. Usually these stamps you would use with ink or brayer. You can use paint. A brayer would make it more or less smudgy, and I'm trying to, I should have brought my blow dryer to dry some of this paint off. This is gonna be tricky. All right, can you, let's see. Yes. So you would want to do this when your base coat is dry. This base coat is not dry, but I want to show you. It's not bad. I don't know if you guys, oops. Can you, no, this way. So, a little bit here. I will put it closer to the camera afterwards, but this is what it looks like. The whole distressed, this stamp is called Distressed. You know what, I am gonna go over this just a little bit. I said I wasn't, but I'm gonna. Okay, so we can try a little bit more. I'll try one more. And the color that I'm using here is, well, I mixed two colors. I mixed one of our grays with Skeleton Key. I'm trying to use a paint that I opened a while ago and I haven't used. I didn't want it to go bad. All right, let's start it right here. Ooh, I kind of like that. Can you guys see that? It's not so bad. So maybe I'm going to continue on. I just put a little bit of the paint because if you put too much it'll get smudgy like here, which I don't mind anyway, but you don't want it to be too smudgy. I like it. It looks like crackled paint. Yes, and then we're going to put the big words farmhouse in black, and we're going to sand some of the white off, so it is also distressed as well. All right, let's continue with the rest of it. But I'm doing it so I can show you guys. Yeah, I like it. And sometimes you can use the stamp twice before adding more paint. You guys see that? All right, hold on, I'm going to move it a little bit more. Finish this off. Now I am going to paint the front and the legs, of course, but this is just for the sake of showing you the stamp and how it works. Yeah, so it looks like a bench that's been around for a while and the paint is kind of coming off. So we're going to do this end right here. Now I'm not putting the stamps in any particular way. There's no, okay, just a little bit more over here. And you know, you can do as little or as much as you want of this stamp. So you could make it so it's less crackly, there's less of a pattern, or you can add more. I think I'm going to keep this like this. And I don't know about the mess I made there, but that's okay. So I'm going to try and lift this bench and bring it closer to the camera so you can see it. Okay, it's not a heavy bench. So see, it kind of looks like an old bench. So it still has a way to go. We have to paint the front right here and the legs. And then we're gonna write farmhouse with more stamps, but not right now because the paint is still too wet, and then it's wet paint on wet paint, more wet paint on top of the wet paint that's wet paint. Not good. Okay, so now the top is dry and it's time to paint the sides and the legs, and I'm going to use the same gray that I used on the top for the sides. Remember, 2 coats, always 2 coats. So now comes the fun part. So we are going to use some Iron Orchid Design stamps in ink for the word farmhouse. These are super easy to use. You need your ink pad, your ink, a brayer. Brayer always helps to keep things less smudgy, and of course you need the letters. So we're just going to pour a little bit of ink in the ink pad. We're going to try and spread that around a little bit, and then what we're going to do is roll the brayer over the ink pad. Just a little side note, when storing the ink pad, when you are done with it, it's always good to cover it and store it upside down so that the ink doesn't stay in the bottom of the pad. It stays in the top for when you use it the next time. Okay, so now that we have our ink on the brayer, we're just going to gently roll it over the letter. And we don't need too much. If we do too much, it does get smudgy, as I said. And then we're just going to place it wherever it is that we want to put it in the project that we're using. In this case, it's the bench. I did not measure this out. I just kind of gauged it, the words and the letters where I wanted it to go, and it came out pretty even. It's imperfectly perfect, but it's good. I'm going to gently lift up, and just another little side note, once you put that stamp down with the ink, you are committed, so it will stay on there. You don't want to rub on it or anything like that because it will smudge. But as I said, once it is down, it's down, and this is permanent ink. Just want you to know. Now that we've used the stamps for the lettering of the word farmhouse, and we have the outline, we're just going to fill it in with Little Black Dress. That's the color of this paint that I'm using right here. I'm not trying to make the word look perfect because remember, I do want this to look like an old farmhouse bench. So to truly make this bench look like an old farmhouse bench, besides using the distress stamp, I want to distress it even further. So I am just going to spray a little water on a hand sponge and just kind of rub away as to where the bench would normally be worn in distress. So the the water reactivates the paint, and that's what will help it come off. So we do this before we seal it because we still have to seal it. So the very last step is to seal it. I'm choosing to use wax, and I'm going to use clear wax. There are other finishes you could use, but I just happen to have the wax handy, and I do like the wax look. It's not going to be bright or glossy at all. One thing to keep in mind, it's called, I believe, the wax freak out factor or something like that, and that is when you put wax on a color, like I am here with this gray, it does look darker, and it's just because the wax is wet. Once it dries, it does lighten up. Also, I just added some dark and decrepit dust because, again, I do want it to look like an old bench. And this just gives it a little bit of some darker tones. here and there. And that's it. We have a farmhouse bench.